Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. Let us discuss NWA Powerrr from December the 7th, 2021. A solid episode of NWA Powerrr. They actually did a lot in this episode. And there was actually some angles that I really enjoyed. So I can't wait to talk about one thing. There's one or two things on here that I really am excited about. The first match was Colby Corino and the Fixers versus Victor Benjamin and the OGK. Victor Benjamin is the husband of Lady Frost, I believe. Don't think I've ever seen him wrestle before. There was a part in this match where he actually looked very good. He was kicking the shit out of Colby Corino. He still ended up losing the match. He got pinned by Colby Corino later, but he looked good, at least for a little while. I was more interested in him than Mike Bennett and Matt Taven. And I've never seen two guys fit in the NWA like gloves, like Mike Bennett and Matt Taven. And you probably think that's a compliment. It's not, because these two were on national TV. Strictly Business cut a promo. Weird having Strictly Business without Nick Aldis. But Tom Latimer said that at the end of their match, Nick Aldis couldn't catch his breath and needed the ref to stand up. So while he technically lost, he's in Nick Aldis' head and he took a piece of his soul. I'm like, okay. You got the dub, though, so I don't know. How many pieces of your soul did you lose? Camille complained about Melina biting, but, it was okay because she still won. And Chris Adonis said that he wasn't afraid of any boogeyman and that he's the most defending and the greatest national champion. All came across as very generic. I wish they could have done something better. Anyway, Jax Dane, he was disgusted with this Anthony Mayweather guy who I completely forgot existed. He demanded a rematch against Matthew Mims, was told no, and said, okay, I'm so confident I'll put my title shot on the line in order to get this match to occur. And then Corgan accepted it. He said that Corgan is terrified that he's going to continue building a legendary career, and Corgan will have to treat him like the legend he is. And this is continuing the conspiracy Corbin angle that Strictly Business had. The question would be, why would Corgan care about you being a legend? Why would he care? Maybe it would be like he don't want to pay me any more money, so he's trying to keep me from being a world champion. I think that would make more sense. He doesn't want to break the budget. He wants to give all the big money to Nick Aldis and all these other guys. He don't want to give it to me. He doesn't think I'm worth it, but I'm the one with the resume. Then he talks a lot about his resume, which I think is an actual good thing about Jax Dane. Is he's become quite a decent promo, in terms of running down his resume to get heat. I really enjoy that, even though I can't remember none of it because I don't pay it any attention. But it's a good heat machine because when he's getting started with it, and people just start booing immediately. Which is good. Jax Dane then defeated Matthew Mims in the fourth match on the show with a running lariat that they called Pop the Trunk. He was also preoccupied with the Anthony Mayweather dude who was on commentary, but nothing came of it. So they've started calling him the Dane event, which I don't like. I don't like that. That sounds stupid. I know Dane rhymes with Maine, but it sounds dumb. Don't do that. Tom Latimer defeated some guy named Miguel Robles. He was playing with the guy. This wasn't really a real match. Paula Blaze wrestled Genocide and was defeated. Genocide and Paula Blaze were former tag team partners, and they had a disagreement over when to use the Championship Series title match. They used it at Hard Times and lost, which was Genocide's idea, and Paula Blaze didn't like it. So naturally, Paula Blaze is the heel in this situation, even though she didn't want to have the match. Genocide did. And then they were running around as Paula Blaze was trying not to wrestle her. And Genocide, of course, is a giant cyborg. I think that's her character. Taryn Terrell was out there. It was hard to tell whose side she was on at first. Then she was on sides with Paula Blaze. There was another woman out there who I didn't really see and I didn't remember hearing her name. But apparently she's going to be Genocide's new partner, or a new manager or something like that, because I guess Taryn Terrell and Paula Blaze are going to go off on their own. This was a mess. I didn't understand this. There's a bunch of tell without showing. I don't remember any argument between Paula Blaze and Genocide over this. Maybe I missed it. I don't know. Maybe I missed it, which is entirely possible. All the tag team champions were talking in Spanish and talking about how good they feel. So that was interesting. Not really, even though I like both teams. Tyrus shows his face on this television screen. He is a television champion, so he should be on the television screen. And he's hanging out with Austin Idol, Jordan Clearwater, and Black G's. They're out there to gloat about defeating Cyan, even though they cheated. Tyrus said he's been teaching accountability. And that then he said something that was actually funny, and I actually thought it was cute. When he said that Jordan Clearwater is out here looking like a banana daiquiri everybody wants to sip because he's wearing a gold robe. He was wearing a gold robe and gold tights and everything. So I thought that was pretty nice. He really put the kid over with that one. Then they got told that Cyan wanted to talk to them. And they were like, wait a minute, we just beat this guy. What does he want? So Cyan comes out there, and this is the actual interesting thing on this show. Cyan says that he thanked Tyrus because he learned a lot about himself, which was his goal. He said, look, winning the TV title was a motivation, but you were the goal. You know, standing up to the biggest, strongest man in the locker room. That was always the goal. Saying that he sought out lessons because he had a dad who was a former NWA world champion and was never around to teach him. When he said that, there was a slight pause. And everybody was like, ooh. And even I was like, wait a minute, what? And then he says that he wants a rematch and that he'll do anything to get it. And, Tyrus said to him, look, I'll discuss it with my manager. We'll get back to you on that rematch tip. But everybody, myself included, I was given straight pause when he said his dad was a former NWA world champion. Because I'm like, instantly, who could it be? Who could it be? And I'm thinking to myself, how many former NWA champions? Cyan can't be 40 or 50 years old, so you don't have to go back that old. Who could it be that could be his dad? Maybe one of these world champions from the 90s? Is he like Rob Conway's son or something like that? I guess it's entirely possible, isn't it? He could be, well, probably not none of the Japanese guys, right? I don't think. And when you think about it, Cyan comes from Scion, which means the son of, or the Scion is the sire is the father, Scion is the son. So that makes sense. And I put it together almost immediately when he said it. But I'm sitting here, thinking about whose son could he be? And it's very interesting. And Tyrus says that he knows him. So he's saying he's the son of a world champion, and Tyrus knows this guy. So the question is, how does Tyrus know him? And, whose son is he? And when he first came into the NWA, he said he was asked to come there by William Patrick Corgan. And the only person who knows his true identity is William Patrick Corgan. So I'm very interested in who this is. And it could be a women's world champion, too, now that I think about it. He said he's the son of a world champion. He didn't say it had to be a man. So it could be a woman. It could be a women's world champion. But he did say dad. So, that's a good hook. I'm very interested. I'm more interested in Cyan today than I was last week, and I was 2 weeks ago. And I think he's been doing a pretty good job of with this character that they've given him, whoever he is. And I think that this is a good thing for him, whoever he is. Because he didn't come in trying to ride off his dad's coattails. He's almost the exact opposite of Colby Corino. Colby Corino always talks about how his dad is a world champion, former NWA world champion, and how he deserves all this kind of stuff because his dad's a former NWA world champion. Kind of like it was his birthright. Where Cyan's saying the business doesn't owe anybody anything, doesn't owe me anything, doesn't owe you anything. So he asked politely for a rematch, and that gave Tyrus the impetus to say, look, maybe we'll discuss it. We'll talk about it. So I'm interested. I'm intrigued. Could it be one of these guys who was a TNA world champion? Could it be? Could he be? Look, I was trying to think of anybody who would be old enough to have been a world champion, but also not too old, where his son would be like 48. So it's like, I doubt he's like the son of Tommy Rich or something like that. Like he would have to be like really old at that point, right? Because Tommy Rich ain't like 48 pumping out kids, would he? I don't know. So it's a good question. And then the question comes up that it could possibly be kayfabe. Maybe he's a kayfabe son of somebody. So I'm very interested in what they're doing here. Nick Aldis and Mickie James came out there. Nick Aldis and Mickie James. Mickie James talked first, said she thanked Kiera Hogan for giving her all, and that the door is open if she wants another title shot. They announced that Mickie James and Kiera Hogan will be tag teaming next week to wrestle the Hex for the tag team championships. So they really going hard on this storyline, and I'm guessing the heel turn is coming next week, and I'm interested in that. Nick Aldis says that Mickie James is a Hall of Fame wife and mother, and that she's the GOAT, and that he told Tom Latimer that friends come and go and families forever, and winning is their family business. So then he says that the NWA to him meant the NWA World Title and world-class tag team wrestling, and he wanted to reform the British Invasion now that Doug Williams is back in the business, because he wants to add their names to the names of the legendary NWA tag teams like the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express and the Road Warriors, and et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, at least that's a good motivation. Doug Williams came out there and said that, he thought that the British Invasion was dead because they both found great success as singles wrestlers. Even though the tag team was in the past and he thought it was ancient history, he relishes the opportunity to win gold again. So he agreed, and they're in the bag with British Invasion t-shirts, or jackets rather, and the British Invasion reformed. And you know what? The British Invasion is not necessarily high on my list of tag teams. It was during the age of TNA. I was not really a big fan of TNA. I pushed so much TNA history out of my head. I know that Doug Williams was a long time, I think was it the Grand Championship or the X Division title that Doug Williams had for a long time. And I remember, Magnus being the world champion in TNA, and it was awful. Oh God, it was awful. He was not a good world champion at all. And I think part of it was the booking, but I don't remember that much about British Invasion, if we're being honest. I think this is a nice little throwback, and it gives Nick Aldis something to do, so he won't be constantly chasing the world title. But my my idea of the British Invasion is basically what I just saw on television. What I just watched on Powerrr, because I mean it was so long ago. It had to be over 10 years ago, right? Well, it had to be at least 10 years ago, right? British Invasion maybe 8 or 9 years ago. That was a long time ago, man. But I can remember mostly tag teams from a long time ago. I just don't remember them. Anyway, they wrestled Hawks Aerie, PJ and Luke Hawks, and defeated them. PJ Hawks is actually very impressive, and I think that maybe, I wanted to take a moment or two to talk about how smooth that kid is. He's an amateur wrestler. He did some amateur wrestling, so he's pretty strong. He knows how to get the lower center of gravity on you. He can take you down. He did some pretty good submission holds. He can do some pretty good counters. Like, his stuff looks good. Amateur wrestling is probably the best springboard for the pros, because, there's not a lot of amateur wrestlers that come out looking like shit. A lot of them, if they have an amateur background, at least their suplexes and their submissions look good. Their stuff looks smooth. And PJ Hawks is very impressive. Maybe if he put on some body weight and he gets a little bit older. I know he's like very young. I think he's like 22 or 23 or something like that. He's not older than 25. So he's got like a big, big, big future. And I kind of liked him. He impressed me in this match. He impressed me quite a bit. But the British Invasion won, because why not? Why wouldn't they win? Hawk said he ain't going anywhere. So they were beaten because Doug Williams hit Chaos Theory on Luke Hawx. So the last thing we're going to discuss here is the NWA World Champion and his promo. So Trevor Murdoch was furious that Matt Cardona and attacked him from behind. And he said that, the NWA World Championship is about honor and respect. But ever since he's had this title, there's been people attacking him from behind. Ever since he began his entire journey to this title, going back to, Nick Aldis and Chris Adonis attacking him from behind. Then Mike Knox attacked him from behind. Now Matt Cardona is attacking him from behind. And he's tired of people attacking him from behind. He said, look, you need to be a man. If you're going to come at me and try to be the world champion, you need to come direct. And as he was saying this, Aaron Stevens sauntered over in a robe that looked like it was, made out of blankets. And he was essentially Damian Sandow as Aaron Stevens. And he came out to congratulate Trevor Murdoch. And then he healed on the crowd. Basically said that, the crowd don't understand certain things. And, he's never been better. He referred to himself in the third person. He was essentially, as I said, he was being Damian Sandow. He decided to work that gimmick. And this frustrated Trevor Murdoch to no degree. He's like, I just talked about this, man. About guys just coming out of nowhere. Even though he didn't come from behind him. He came off to the side a little bit. He didn't come from behind him. And he didn't attack him. But he did take his attention off of him. So Aaron Stevens apparently is playing the gimmick that his brain is broken. And that Kratos has pushed him to revert back to being Damian Sandow. Which is, very cool. Damian Sandow was not bad. Was not a bad character. The fact that he went away from it for so long is actually impressive to me. He should have went back to it almost immediately, especially after his old TNA Liberace gimmick flopped. He definitely should have just gone back to being the intellectual savior of the masses. I don't see why you wouldn't do that. They can own the name, but all the mannerisms and everything is stuff that you were doing. So just do it, especially if that's what everybody knows you for. I like that they're trying to play it off like it's a separate personality, like he's snapped and he's going into a different mind state. So it's working on that level. They're adding a little bit of development to it, so that's all fine. Trevor Murdoch being really frustrated is really good. I like that, even though I don't really like him as being world champion. I can't wait for him to take the belt off of him. But his promo at least had fire. At least it made sense. And at least I agree with him. Because, hey, you should challenge the champion head up. But the heels should also attack from behind. Because they're bad guys and they're horrible people. No, they shouldn't come up and challenge you straight up. Because why would they do that? That would be honorable and good. And that's not what heels do. Heels are dirty bastards, man. They're backstabbers and dirty bastards. All right, so the last thing we're going to discuss is the NWA USA television show. They're going to have a new program. This is going to be a YouTube-only show. It'll be launching on January the 8th. The national title and the junior heavyweight title will be the focuses of that show. They didn't give us any time or how long the show will be, so we don't know the length of the show or what time the show will actually air. But I'm glad they've gone back to YouTube. This was very smart business. I didn't like when they took Powerrr off of YouTube. They missed out on a lot of business. Powerrr was doing gangbusters on YouTube at first, and then the Cornette debacle happened and it screwed everything up. But now they're kind of in the lurch where they have such a quote unquote problematic roster with guys like Austin Aries and Tyrus on it. If you don't know what's wrong with Tyrus, he's a Fox News contributor, and he was accused of sexual harassment. And Austin Aries, again, look at his Twitter account. But then you also have, probably going to bring in some other people who are going to be quote unquote problematic. And Billy Corgan is just signing the people that he thinks is best, without much concern to what the progressive wrestling fans think. And whenever they talk about NWA, usually they denigrate them for having Tyrus on the roster or something like that. So I'm one of the few that actually watch the show and actually enjoy it and don't mind talking about it, and especially talking about it in a way that is fair. You know, most other people are biased against it because they're like, "Who is this guy?" And none of these people are over and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, you know, they're not gonna be in the sweepstakes to get CM Punk and wrestle in some studio in Atlanta. They don't have that kind of budget. Come on, you're not Billy Corgan might have a lot of Smashing Pumpkins money, but he's not a damn billionaire. So I'm glad that they're going back to YouTube. That ought to be an extra income stream for them. I saw that they can make up to maybe 5 figures on YouTube with if they can get enough subscribers. You know, they might be able to net 4 or 5 figures, especially if people are willing to pay super chats and stuff like that. That'd be a nice little income stream for the company. They can continue to expand, and that should be fun. You know, there's no real loss to them on this one. If they can afford to pay the talent, I say go for it. It's a smart decision. Which also tells us that probably their fight deal is likely not exclusive, but it's probably exclusive in terms of Powerrr. So it might be exclusive for Powerrr, but not for the other show, which would be a similar situation to WWE, where they have, okay, USA has exclusive rights to First Run Raw, but not to the replays. The replays go to Hulu or whatever their streaming partners are, and SmackDown goes to a different show. So NWA creating a separate show, for them this is good. For, you know, AEW is also good. You know, you get some extra change, you know, on this program, and you're continuing to monetize the company, you know. And I was thinking WWE should do the same thing. You know, 205 Live should just be a YouTube show. There's no reason why it shouldn't be. You know, putting it on the network, that's fine, you know. But I think that you could probably monetize that show a little bit more by putting it as a free YouTube show, you know. And I like Billy Corgan. He is sticking to his guns. He said that, you know, TV is dead. We're going to stick with technology. And he's going to do it. He doesn't care. You know, he's going to make this work. And doing fights for the main show and YouTube for the backup show, that's perfectly fine with me. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like, share, subscribe, donate if you can. And I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.
Old non-aggression. Once that lesson sets in, you'll see a session. But you got an affection for no progression, regression.